So hello, we are group 14 of C41160 and we would like to make a short presentation about the road building in Hong Kong. And I am Thomas. So I would like to make a very short introduction to the roads in Hong Kong currently. Actually, according to the Highway Department of the HKSAR government, we got around 2,107 kilometers roads in Hong Kong, which consists of many main roads and 15 tunnels, around 1,000 flyovers and bridges, and also around 1,200 footbridges and the subways, which allows both the pedestrians and as well as the vehicle to use the roads in Hong Kong. And actually, the roads are really keeping a very important roles in the economic development of Hong Kong. Because without the roads, we cannot access different places in Hong Kong easily. And actually, around 400 kilometers roads are in the Hong Kong Island. Around another 400 kilometers roads are in the Kowloon Peninsula, and the remaining should be included in the new territories areas. So now I would like to make a very short introduction about the material that are commonly used to construct the roads in Hong Kong. So we got actually mainly two materials. The first one is asphalt and the another one is the concrete. Actually, they are quite different materials, and in terms of the life expectancy, maintenance, and as well as the cost to build. So the asphalt, the life expectancy should be around 15 to 20 years, while for the concrete, it can be used for around 30 to 40 years. However, as we all know that most of the traffic in Hong Kong is quite busy, and there is a very frequent maintenance should be needed. For asphalt, around 3 to 5 years, there is a resurfacing for the busy roads like the main roads, for example, the King's Road or the Gloucester Road. For the concrete, there is a reconstruction is needed if the roads got deteriorate up, maybe like frequently be used by the heavy vehicles and so on. So for asphalt, the cost of construction is quite expensive, but for the concrete, the cost is much cheaper.
So now I'm going to talk about the method of traditional road building, and the process includes first to find a temporary access road, and then to clean the surface, road bed engineering, drainage construction, pipeline construction, and then pouring of the concrete, and then last is the surface construction. And common materials for the surface of the roads are asphalt mixture, cement, concrete, paving stones, and some other non-fixed materials such as gravel, industrial waste, and the most important one is the concrete. The process of producing concrete is first to crush the rocks into small pieces, which we call them aggregates, and then mix the aggregate, cement, and water together and then harden. So there are two reasons that we're using concrete for road building. The first one is because it's high compressive strength, and the second one is because different shapes are possible when concrete is wet, so it is easier for the road building.
Thank you. And right now we are going to talk about the characteristic of asphalt and concrete and compare two materials together. First of all, for asphalt, in terms of durability, it depends on temperature. It will be softened in high temperature easily, and as well as it will crack easily because of the temperature difference, and it has a shorter lifetime. So in terms of durability, it is less durable. And as for the plasticity, what we mean by plasticity is the ability to shape itself, and it is easier to it is high in plasticity because asphalt is so easy to repair due to its plasticity. First of all, because they can reshape and they can resize very easily, no matter it is in a hot way or the wet way. And secondly, about the repair issues, you can just get some new asphalt and put it on the surface, and you can repair it much easier. So in terms of plasticity, it is relatively high. And finally, in terms of financial issue, asphalt is much cheaper compared to concrete. But however, as we mentioned before, we got a shorter lifetime, so you have to replace the asphalt much constantly compared to concrete. So for the second one, we are going to talk about the characteristic of concrete. First of all, for the durability, it had a high compressive strength, density. However, it have a minimum tensile strength. So that's why it will crack in freezing temperatures very easily, but it will quite very steady in terms of the structure in a normal temperature. And also in terms of plasticity, it is much harder to reshape and resize when it is when the concrete cool down. But however, when it is in the shape of wet concrete, which is newly made concrete, then it can reshape and resize very easily. And you can incorporate with different materials by that time, for example, steels. And then you will become some reinforced concrete, and it would be much better for construction site. And that's why the plasticity is high in wet concrete, but when it cool down, it no longer be high in plasticity. And lastly, for the financial issue, concrete is relatively expensive compared to asphalt. However, as it has a longer lifetime, the lifespan will be longer, and the cost will spread out for a longer period. So it may take into the consideration for the government or the construction workers or the construction company to figure out whether or not they should use concrete or asphalt for road building. So here's the comparison between asphalt and concrete. As we mentioned before, the cost is higher for concrete for driveway, and also concrete is much more durable compared to asphalt. However, in terms of when facing weather issue, they perform very differently. Asphalt will be softened in high heat, while concrete will crack in freezing temperature. As for the longevity, we can see that asphalt will have a shorter lifetime compared to concrete. So also, because of the weather issues, it takes a shorter time for asphalt to do the maintenance. It need to reseal every 3 to 5 years. As for concrete, it doesn't really matter. But sometimes, occasionally, there will be some degreasing, and sealing is also optional. And as for the resurfacing and repair, it is much easier for asphalt because of the nature of itself, and you can definitely resurfacing. However, for concrete, after it is dried out, it is cooled down, it no longer a wet concrete, it is so much more difficult to repair and resurfacing because of its nature. So that's why when we are considering which materials to be used, we have to depend on it.
So who invented plastic roads? Well, the inventor of plastic roads, also known as the Plastic Man of India. This technology is developed by Professor Rajagopalan Vasudevan. And here is a simple video of providing you with some insight on what plastic roads are and the process of how it is made. So the background information. In November 2015, the Indian government was the first to make the road developers mandatory to use plastic waste in road construction. The goal is simple. This is to overcome the disposal of plastic waste, which is one of the major issues worldwide. The examples of plastic waste used in road construction can be a variety of carry-on plastic bags, plastic cups, or even plastic packaging coming from biscuits, chips, or of any sort. Moving on to the road construction process of using plastic waste. First, plastic waste is shredded. And they're shredded to a particular size, but not all the same size. And this is through the use of a shredding machine. Second, aggregates are mixed and heated. They're heated at precisely 165 degrees and then transferred to a mixing chamber. Next, it's bitumen heating. The bitumen is heated at 160 degrees to make it less thick and more workable, to create good binding. It is important to monitor the temperature throughout the heating process. Fourthly, further mixing. The shredded plastic is added to the aggregates, which is coated uniformly over the aggregates, and this takes around 30 to 60 seconds. Next is coating. The plastic waste coated aggregates is mixed with hot bitumen. The mix is ready for road construction. And lastly, road laying and rolling. The road laying temperatures are between 110 to 120 degrees, and an 8-ton roller capacity is used. This process is used in India, and for other countries, for example, Indonesia, asphalt is used instead of bitumen. Lastly, plastic roads in other countries. This technology has been used and implemented in different countries, for example, Australia, Indonesia, United Kingdom, and United States.
There are two reasons why it fits Hong Kong very well. Firstly, Hong Kong is having a great demand for road building and thus road building materials. According to the Highway Department, there are three road projects involving road improvement currently. In addition, the Lantau Tomorrow Vision project also involves a lot of road building as well. And as you can see, these road projects are mainly for connecting the artificial island with the surrounding areas. So, as for the cost, it did not account for the roads that is going to be built across the artificial islands. So, we estimate the cost of building the roads of these artificial islands will be over 101 billion Hong Kong dollars. And by using plastic roads, 8% of 101 billion is a lot of cost savings for the Hong Kong government and Hong Kong citizens. Therefore, the amount of roads need to be built will be a great opportunity for Hong Kong government to apply plastic road building. Another reason why it will be suitable for Hong Kong is that it helps Hong Kong to dispose plastic waste. As you can see, plastic rates have been rising over the years, and in 2015 there are over 2,000 tons of plastic waste. However, only a little of them is being recycled locally, and the rest of them are exported to the foreign countries for disposal. Therefore, Hong Kong government can take this opportunity of building roads using plastic and using the plastic waste as materials for building roads. So, as a short conclusion, the demand of road building materials will be met by the amount of abundant plastic waste in Hong Kong.
There are also some disadvantages of using plastic to build roads, which is leaching, as there is toxics present in the commingled plastic waste, which will actually start leaching. And after the first rain, it will also trigger leaching on the roads. And lastly, for an environmental aspect, the presence of chlorine will release noxious HCl gas during the road laying process. So these are some of the disadvantages of plastic building roads. So now let's move on to the advantages of plastic built roads. So firstly, in terms of strength, it will actually increase the Marshall stability value, which in turn increase the strength of roads by 100%. And also, in an economical aspect, it can generate employment for a lot of unskilled laborers, which also decrease the cost of road constructions, which actually maintain the cost of building roads in a very low level. And environmentally, using plastic to build roads can bring a value adding on plastic waste and help providing people a better pathway for plastic waste disposal. Despite the disadvantages of plastic-built roads, plastic roads still suit Hong Kong's situation and facilitate sustainable development in long term. In terms of strength, economical, and environmental factors as mentioned above. So we strongly recommend Hong Kong to adopt these plastic built roads, which will actually benefit Hong Kong in the above mentioned aspect in long term. Thank you very much for your time, and that's the end of our presentation. Thank you.